Hi, welcome to If I Did It, a show where we analyze and solve pure kerfuffles from MMA world and beyond.
It doesn't even sound like what it originally sounded like, when it was supposed to be like 7 winds across the Gobi Desert. Now it just sounds like I've got emphysema.
It's all that pipe tobacco you've been enjoying.
Oh, yeah. Clean living. That's what I'm all about, friend.
That's right.
It goes perfectly with the ascot you ought to be wearing with that outfit. What is wrong with you? Where's the ascot?
Yeah, I'm tired of having things tied around my neck, if you know what I mean. Yeah, no. Anyway.
I'm Alexi Old, and joining me as always is Kid Native Bloody Elbow and Eugene Robinson from Aussie.com and author of Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Ass Kicking.
We're
afraid you get your ass kicked for asking. What?
Is Eugene cleaning his gun over
there?
You're
perilously close. I got back from my shows, the Oxbow shows, and had on 3 hours sleep. I got one of those automated doorbells that rings. My wife says, "Oh my God, it's the police!" And I go outside, and the police go, "Is this your car?" The neighbors have called the police on me. How do you like that?
For coming home late?
When I parallel parked, the bumpers were touching, and they're like, "You've established contact here." I go,
That's assault.
Are all of you crazy? And they go, "Well, there is contact, and there's contact." I tell the woman whose car it is, "Could you pull forward a couple of feet so we could see what kind of damage this contact has?" So we look, and there's nothing. They go, "Well, no, if you look." I had to like get my camera like that far away, and there's a little, and I go, "There's no way that I don't know that was pre-existing." Well, we'll talk to the insurance company, and the cop at that point is like, "Well, it's not really a police matter, so you guys can handle." I said, "You talk to the insurance company all you like."
What time did they call the cops on you?
11:20 at night.
Man, like a good neighbor.
And it's like, there was that thing in New York where somebody takes your parking spot. They can take your parking spot if they get there first, but then they got to leave their car there. So you might understand what I'm saying. Without me saying, like 50 Cent says, the DA can play his motherfucking tape in court. I'm going to burn your car to the rims.
Well, speaking of burning.
Allegedly. Like you use the word allegedly completely inappropriately, like thinking it cover your ass, Sorry. Anyway.
Eugene, you're Conor McGregor.
I am.
1 week removed from your McMay payday. Walk us through the PR pros and cons, live and in public, if you will, of looking for your next fight inside or outside of the octagon.
When you're in what is that great Sammy Davis Jr. line song, with everyone here kindly step to the rear and let a winner lead the way. What is that thing? Or no, my other favorite one, if they could see me now, my little dusty group waltzing around this $1 million chicken coop. The guy's got, as far as I'm concerned, I know P. Diddy says more money, more problems, but there are no pros and no cons in the scenario in which you pocket $100 million. Now, keep in mind, based on the numbers and the facts and the figures that we're seeing, we say, well, if everything goes to shit, he'll walk away with at least 30 mil. But if things go well, he'll make 100 mil. Now, based on the numbers, even though they kind of seem to be quicksilver at this point, if they're talking about 650 mil, from the pre-refunded pay-per-view, he might walk away with more than 100 mil. At this point now, that guy's in that rarefied place of, what do I want to do?
Yep.
If he wants to go into fucking Etruscan pottery, or if he wants to get into stamp collecting, if he wants to do like Brian May and get his PhD in physics, astrophysics, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. It's all upside, One of the things that he could also do is go the Evander Holyfield route, which is then not very much upside, getting kicked out of a nice expensive mansion, having to give up the Rolls Royces. Yeah, 100 mil is not infinite amounts of money. It can be destroyed, and it can be stolen from you, from precisely the guys that you might find yourself hanging around with now. So there are perils, but next fight, gives a fuck. Who gives a fuck? It was really funny watching that press clip of GSP talking about why he's such a danger for somebody like Bisping now. And it's like, How's that feel? You used to be the $1 million man, GSP. Now you're dancing for your fucking supper. How does that shit feel? It probably, you know, I'm surprised GSP just wasn't sitting there glaring into the camera like I would have been. Great. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm glad I got $1 million in the bank. Woo-hoo. You know, I'm 36 years old, and I still got to worry about my future. Not
and my brain, remember?
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, he says he did this thing, the pyramid, physical, mental. There's a third one. No. He said physical, mental, and mind. I don't know.
That sounds nice.
Spiritual something. He said in the 2 quadrants he was underrepresented and not working well, but in the physical he was okay. Now he's got all 3 firing. Yeah, whatever. Smell the mist, feel the mist. I mean, McG is the interesting thing about him is, and I just wrote a piece about John Jones for Ozzy. The interesting thing is not getting to the mountaintop. The interesting thing is staying on the fucking mountaintop. Yeah. And you know, just because you have $100 million doesn't mean you won't find yourself fucking broke, busted, and alone. You got to find something to do with your remaining years on the planet. That's the biggest con, that you try and you fail and don't know what you do and end up dithering your days away. That's tough. Well, it's kind of tough. I'll never see, but it's a tough, you know.
So we don't know what the future holds for you, Conor.
If you know, at this point now, I got to sit down and have a vision quest and clear my head and say, you know, if the sky is a limit, what would I most want to do? And most of us, limitations are our friends. We don't have to think about things like that because we got to get food on the table. We got to get rent. We don't have unlimited. But you got $100 million, man, whatever. You could do, you know, a hand puppet rendition of Hamlet. You know, you could do puppet. You could do a peanut. You could do Hamlet with hamsters.
Oh, I like the way you think. What about
in a world where you could do anything? You know, the biggest tragedy, the biggest con for him is that he then can't think of anything to do. That's the biggest tragedy. That's the biggest con.
Wow. What about you, Nate?
Well,
McGregor?
I'm the voice of sage wisdom and morality here. Eugene started to sound like the guy in Pinocchio who sells Pinocchio and going to the land of fools where you never have to study. You play all day. I mean, no. Then the donkey ears grow and someday you'll be pulling a cart in a coal mine. Little donkey. It's that road leads to perdition. Conor needs to stay busy.
But the issue is not what he needs to do. What will he do? Pros and cons of his paths to the future.
Look at who listened to the question over here.
Yes. Also known as
take your donkey ears and shove them up your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Also known as the professional. All right.
I said the professional. That lack of ascot's letting the blood flow to your brain and change the game. I mean, now I've forgotten the question. You sabotaged me again.
My God. You are Conor McGregor.
You're Conor McGregor. And it's like, I think, judging by his public comments immediately after the fight, and he's been quiet for a few days, which is perfectly reasonable.
He's not been quiet. He's been in Ibiza.
Well, yeah, but he hasn't been, you know.
He's somewhere rich, that motherfucker.
Yeah.
He's somewhere with money.
He was sounding pretty focused on the Diaz's. He was sounding pretty focused on the UFC. I think he wants to stay busy, wants to get back out there. I think he proved something to himself and everybody else with the amount of money he made, the fact that he lasted to the 10th round in somebody else's sport.
Oh, hold on. You had one hand up. Could you put the other hand up when you say lasted? You had the one hand up. I want to see the other hand up. Yeah, you go. Lasted. Okay.
Lasted. No, he was like Bronson, man. He was like flashing the V for victory signs as they dragged him out of the cell. Like, yeah, it was. I finally saw that movie, by the way. I can't believe you held out on me for this long with that.
I told you to see it.
You would have known I loved it, and not a word. You told me about it 4 or 5 times, and that's it.
Well, fortunately, I'm not married to you. So you don't. So this line of like, you should have told me, I don't have to listen to that. You know?
Yeah. No, I'm like the kid in the Onion article that found out about Bruce Lee and is furious at his parents. How did I live for 11 years and nobody tells me about Bruce Lee? Right. No, I mean, Conor. I think Conor's focused. I don't think he's going to lose his way just yet, and I think he's going to fight again against a Diaz.
Well, that was really sort of totally off the question, but okay.
Look at you! Since when? Do you want me to read the ugly comments they're making about Eugene Nostrilson in the YouTube comments?
That's because it's so fucking hot in here. The pillow I usually use would burn up and the computer, so you're gonna have to look up my nose.
You please,
actually,
Mr. Nostrilson.
Actually, no, hold
Jesus
on.
loves your nose hairs more than you.
The thing that you thought was a gun is actually a box that something like that came in, and this won't catch on fire.
What was in the box?
I don't remember.
Was it a taser? You know, non-lethals are illegal in many jurisdictions.
Yeah. I have a microwave gun.
I'd hate to tell your neighbor about your extensive collection of illegal non-lethal weaponry.
I think they might be discovering it the hard way. Fucking pricks. Motherfuckers. I can't believe that.
That's
unbelievable.
Pretty foolish. That's extreme foolishness. But how did I not answer the question? I mean, look at you. You never answer the question, and this week you're going to be harsh on me.
And a bad dancer.
Week away from the show,
a bad dancer blames his shoes. There you go.
No, a good
hey, a little foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Shoes.
Say because I'm a professional. Yes, thank you.
So, you don't think he's going to go the route of someone we're going to talk about later, Ronda Rousey? And
no, well, I'm going to tell you. Well, look. Right now, they're smart fights to make, and everybody knows what they are. So just like Bellator used to be tournament and now is not, I think that pretty quickly that the rankings will cease having any large impact because keep in mind, it's horse meet cart. The big fights, the fights that generate the money, will generate the most amount of money because these are fights we most want to see. We are clearly sending up a signal of our intent to not give a fuck at all about the rankings. So sorry for you guys who are playing that I'm number 3, I deserve. And who was that guy that everybody loved because he had the 90-second knockout, Suzamov or whatever? And the first thing the guy does is start doing but are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
No time. His nickname is No Time.
No, not that guy. The guy who just fought this past weekend.
Oh, the guy Magomed Shapirov.
Not Megan.
Megan Shapirov.
The guy with like the longest name on earth.
The guy Sumayev, Tsumayiov.
Marbek Taisimov,
and he's doing the night, and he's doing the belt. It's like, you know what? Yeah. Okay. Oh, really? You're gonna pay $60.
I mean, he's been around long enough to talk some shit.
You're gonna pay $60 to see him fight.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though.
Remember, he's got to start calling for it long before he gets it.
Those rankings were set in place by Fox, remember, to give legitimacy to the sport. They were the ones
by a panel of independent journalists
who wanted to have some kind of system in place so it added legitimacy and some kind of pathway for average viewers to understand the quality and standings of the individuals they were watching engage in fisticuffs. So now that that's over, are they going to ban that, or do you just keep the ratings and the rankings in place and just rub everybody's face in the fact that they don't mean shit?
I think you need an ascot now after that Cary Grant you just busted out. Like, why?
I always love the ascot. I did from when I was a little kid. I was like, that looks so cool.
Why am I the only one in dinner attire? I don't know, but
because you got the beret.
Yeah, I see. So we lost Eugene, but I'm just gonna power through. I have no idea what the question was.
No, I was just gonna say, do you think Fox then? Do you think since the rankings were created by Fox,
by a panel of independent journalists?
Yeah, but the whole idea, the whole concept of having the rankings was from Fox. Do you get rid of them?
I'm an independent journalist. Nobody asked me about any rankings.
You're supposed to apply, Eugene. You have to apply.
Oh, that's right. We've been through this, and then last time it came up, then we trundled into a hole of darkness and bitterness. I remember
exactly. The sheer effrontery of you leaving the show, coming back on, and interrupting my question. I had the question nailed. It was about to answer.
Perfectly in the right spot. So.
Is there a wildfire outside your door? Like San Francisco's the only place on the West Coast with no wildfires. You don't have air conditioning. I forgot.
Yeah, this is the last year I go without that, but I'm going to wait till December to get the air conditioning because I'm too thrifty to get it now.
You know what's going to happen is, right, you're saying that, and then when December comes, you're like, You know, I kind of lasted a good amount of time without that air conditioner.
No, fuck that. Fuck that, bro. No, I'm not making that
Global
mistake.
warming got you, man.
Yep.
Man,
It says it's only 76 degrees in Palo Alto. What's your problem?
Yeah, but I'm shut up in the room because I don't want my neighbors to hear me doing the show. So I'm closed.
Your new friends that you just made.
Yeah,
so speaking about shutting up,
Yes.
Nate, you're WME-IMG.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
What?
What, you want to go first? Every question?
No, I dropped out.
Special rules.
I lost time.
I see. All right.
Is it good business to have a fighter who pals around with the Chechen warlord?
Oh.
Well, it depends how much media attention said genocidal Chechen warlord gets for his murderous antics of, he's pulling the you can tell you're dealing with basically a Nazi when they start pulling the old, the Jews are so weak and degenerate, they'll drag the rest of us down, and the Jews are so mighty and powerful, we've got to kill them all before they destroy us.
Right.
As soon as the guy starts saying, we have no gay people in Chechnya, and that's why we're killing them all, you know that, that murderous atrocities are afoot. And the HBO Real Sports show raises profile a fair bit. If you Google Kadyrov, the dictator of Chechnya, you'll start to see, gay pogroms and genocide, et cetera, et cetera. That's beginning to get some attention in the West. Right now, the UFC's in a spot where they can just continue to trundle along and act like it's some foreign problem in a foreign place that may or may not exist and isn't any of their business. However, as shit continues to hit the fan, this is going to be increasingly a dubious proposition. So I think it's extremely foolish and this guy, Edilov, isn't somebody who just it's not like he's some innocent kid who happens to be from Chechnya, so the only chance he has to get out is to cooperate and work with the regime. This guy is the personal trainer of the dictator's children. So this guy is deeply ensconced in Kadyrov's, Secret Service and et cetera, et cetera. This guy is complicit in anything this regime does. So how the UFC can have gay athletes on the roster and tell gay fans, hey, we're open-minded, we're gay-friendly, and here's a guy who goes home to his home country and tortures gay kids to death. Not saying that Edilov did that. I'm just saying that allegedly gay kids are being tortured to death by the regime of which Edilov is an active participant. So, ergo, this is potentially the worst PR shit show in UFC history, and they are blithely walking right into it. And all the MMA managers and media that are complicit in this are being extremely foolish and morally reprehensible.
What about you, Eugene?
Well, he says it's the worst. I would say getting, and of course, I don't think this was the UFC who did this, getting the fighter who was slathered because he was sponsored by a company with explicit and implicit Nazi ideology was pretty bad. And I think this guy will meet a very similar end if there's enough scuttlebutt, not scuttlebutt is the wrong word I'm looking for. If there's enough hubbub is the word that I'm using for. If people go along to get along, they'll have this one fight and then the guy will probably be done because it's a fucking liability. But the fact, maybe this is what happens in the absence of a Joe Silva with the Sean Shelby, also known as Keith era. I don't know, but it seems to me to be a pretty significant oversight. And it's just, you can't, this is the shit you can't do. Shit like the wife of Mnuchin. I'm gonna make fun of some middle class woman because she's making fun of my clothes. I'm just gonna the talentless actress, is gonna give her a blast on Instagram. You know what? Can't do it. You can't, absolutely can't fucking do it. Nobody has any patience for it now. It's not gonna happen. And with this guy, I know there's been a charm offensive. And I know that Chechnya has been inviting fighters over, American actors, American fighters, and the guy is marching around with a golden gun. He's playing chess with his friends who lose to him. I've been thinking about going to Chechnya myself just to hang out. He's guys paying the ride. Why not? But the reality of it is, it's a no U.S. Constitution there, baby. It's a dangerous place, and to have this guy waltz in and kind of avail himself of You know, there are lots of things he could do. He doesn't have to live in Chechnya. You know, he could leave and go other places. I mean, I hate to throw the baby and the bathwater, but like Nate said, this guy is deep. You know, deep, deep, deep. He could go. He could take the Mephisto argument, which is that great movie with who's it, Brandauer, where he's like, "Hey, I'm just a theater guy," and the Nazis rise to power, and he's currying favor and rising up through, and his theater company's doing well. I'm just a theater owner. Nah, there's no justa. You know, there's no justa here. Not when people are being disappeared. So, again, if people don't say anything, then they'll quietly give the guy his fucking walking papers afterward. If people are upset, then it may. I mean, the Nazi guy got yanked before he even fought, right?
Yep.
I think that's a specious comparison, though, because an idiot wearing some Nazi paraphernalia from some shitty third-rate T-shirt company. I mean, obviously they're assholes with bad intentions.
It's not so much a comparison as an indication of scale, you know, where, you know, if a guy with a T-shirt who shares, you know, kind of negative ideology gets yanked, how are they going to let this guy in who's actually got his co-signed on murders, you know, allegedly, right? So
yeah, that's the thing. Like, this is a guy who allegedly, literally, probably has blood on his hands. So that's, you know, this is extremely heinous.
I mean,
state-sponsored.
and MMA has made such a big deal about this. You know, I mean, I think there's a bald one's direct quote. He's like, "Hey, you know, it's not like our sport's not full of felons and ex-cons." You know, when he was doing a blast back to Bob Arum, who called MMA
back when he used to brag about how stacked the UFC cards were.
yeah. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Those were the days.
3 months ago. Yeah. Anyway.
Man. Eugene.
Sir.
You're Ronda Rousey. Is Rousey 2017 a one-time branding event, or do you have pure plans to expand?
Well, you know, I mean, she's in, interestingly enough, a Conor McGregor situation or a GSP situation. Has enough to be comfortable, doesn't have enough to be comfortable forever. So, what happens? You know, what are you going to do? And I don't want to bring it up because I know I'm going to bring it up and then everybody's going to go to YouTube and you're going to look at it. But maybe you've already seen it, so you don't have to do it again. But this WWE thing that she did with the announcing the two, with, if you don't know that that's where the road leads, you know, as Diana Ross, where it turns, that's where it turns. And I can't think of anything more sad, because you know what it's not? It's not a movie. You know what it's not? It's not a TV show. It's not even a TV commercial. It's
America's greatest folk art. Have some respect.
Yeah. I know a buddy of mine. Who's 6'6", 275 pounds, and suffered forever to get through med school. He had major offers. He was a performer, had major offers to go into pro wrestling, but he didn't want to embarrass his mother. Man. Now he's an orthopedic surgeon. God love, you got to do what you got to do. And certainly, you know, there are plenty of former Olympians who are living in completely dire straits. I used to have a boxer, an Olympic boxer, who worked in the mailroom when I was at Nikon. It's like, man, that's, you know, at last I heard Debbie, what was her name? The African-American figure skater, Debbie Thomas. Yeah, Debbie Thomas's name I can't remember. Went to Stanford Med School, was married, and then last I heard had a nervous breakdown and was living in a trailer park somewhere. Yep. Man.
I hear that's happened to the CEO of Nikon now. Nikon Film Company. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where you're going with that, especially since my boss at Nikon, I thought you were referencing my boss at Nikon vomiting in his lap in the parking lot and having a breakdown on the job, which did happen.
Did you hear about the lawyer who died on the conference call?
No way. At Nikon?
Conference call. Not at Nikon, some Silicon Valley company that's still in business. You know, like recently.
They're getting really close to home here, man.
Yeah. No, there was a guy who OD'd on a boat. I think it was maybe thinking about the same thing.
That was the hooker thing. But this guy, his wife found him dead by the phone, and they pieced together that he had OD'd while on a conference call.
Oh.
This was just within the last few weeks.
Was it fentanyl or what was it?
Yeah, it was probably fentanyl.
Damn.
Terrible.
But back to the topic, I'll just introduce myself since Alexi's not going to. All right.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah,
the thing,
yeah,
Eugene. You can shit on wrestling all you want, but Ronda's not just about to lower herself by going into one of the things she's been a fan of since she was a small child, where people have an audience in the millions and make very nice livings. I think she's about to fail at said pursuit. Because those promos she did were fucking terrible. That was garbage. Garbage. I could do better promos than that. This was just piss poor. I mean, the woman, not only can she not act well enough to be in a movie, she can't fucking act well enough to do a wrestling promo. I mean, it was
like the girls that she was standing there with were carrying her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just like Brian Jones and the Rolling Stones. After a certain point, the rest of the band doesn't want to carry your weak ass anymore, and they throw you overboard.
In a pool.
Indeed. Yes.
No, I don't know. I think it's really depressing, and then I always feel bad for being depressed, because it's not like my depression and my pity is based on the assumption that it could have gone any other way, and the reality of it is it never goes any other way except the way it was meant to go, right? You know, that promising kid that you knew in college who now works at the DMV and is completely like depressed. You talk to him at the reunion and figure, man, whatever happened to that guy? What happened to him is exactly what was going to happen to him. You know, he got lots of different roads. They all go to the same place, and it's the same people in the same places, you know.
This isn't the place to argue predestination or free will.
But no, I'm talking about that movie that I want to direct called The Losers. They had one last chance, and they blew it again and again.
You know who would not blow it at all in her debut in WWE? Gabby Garcia. Because she don't have to say shit. All they have to do is pan the camera over, and you see her big ass there. You're like, God damn!
She could pick up some other gal by the head.
She doesn't have to do shit. You just see her. You see like you're like, what the fuck? That's a wrestling freak show. It's a traveling circus.
And then Texas Governor Greg Abbott could roll onto the screen and say, "This is why we've got to pass the bathroom bill."
Who is that Republican from Texas who goes, "We don't need supplies. We have Jesus."
Yeah, there's so many.
Is that real, or is that?
That was a real idiot. Yeah, there's some back into the state ledge. It wasn't one of our superstars who've been.
If I lived in Texas, I would immediately run over to his house, set it aflame, and then when he called the fire, I go, whoa, what are you doing? I want you to come now, brother. Get down on our knees, and we're gonna pray to Jesus. He'll take care of this fire. You know, don't worry about that.
They're talking about that. They're going to replace all the fire departments with prayer hotlines.
Yep. So, you know, Gabby, what did George the Animal Steel ever say other than Fuji? Gabby doesn't.
But he had his back hair permed.
And the thing is, Gabby, it makes perfectly good sense. You know, how about this as a premise? I'm going to make a claim right now because I'm feeling gracious. I'm going to say that Ronda was mismanaged. I'm going to take some of the heat off her shoulders and say it's not all her fault that she was mismanaged. You think that holds water?
By WME.
I'd say the mismanagement goes back further, man. Why would they let Tara Vardian coach that woman? Why?
Yeah, that was extreme foolishness. But you can say to some, you know, I mean, even her mother couldn't dislodge her from.
Yeah, she was trying hard to get her out of there.
So.
Yep.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, and with WME managing her, that was, because that was a disaster any idiot could see coming. The guy was clearly not qualified, you know. But anyway, it is what it is.
So she was mismanaged. I just hope she doesn't end up being the Joe Louis of MMA, you know. She doesn't have enough money to. Neither one of those two have enough money. And if you think Travis Brown's ex-wife is going to be cool about him missing a few alimony payments, a few child support payments, you need to think again.
Well, he'll probably make his wrestling debut in a couple of months.
He's got the frame for it. But here's the silver lining, Eugene. None of us here will have to go into the restroom in Vegas and find Ronda handing out mints because she'll be in the ladies' room.
You don't. No, because there'll be transgender bathrooms, so she'll
Oh,
be there
that's
anyway.
right.
Yeah.
That's why we've got to stop it, because I can't stand the thought of walking into a restroom and there's Ronda Rousey handing out mints.
You might have to explain that to everybody who's listening or watching who's under 30.
The great Joe Louis, one of the great boxers of all time, ended up in the 50s or 60s as a men's room attendant
After
in
a
Vegas.
stint in professional wrestling.
Yeah. All right.
Ouch. But professional wrestling was not what it is today back then. It was a pretty
I mean, at least
bottom tier.
Well, and that's the sad thing is, given
it's still bottom tier, but there was
No,
less money.
not a bottom tier. It used to be the biggest sport in America back then.
Yeah,
you know?
but
not in the 50s. It was pretty bottom. At that point, it was a TV centric thing. It wasn't as big as it was in the 30s.
It took 20 years for it to destroy itself. In the 40s, it was boxing, wrestling, and there was one other sport that I never paid attention to. Baseball.
Horse racing.
Baseball.
Well, baseball, but also horse racing.
well, the thing is, for
these weren't the big three.
she's going to have to be careful with the WWE, though, because what has changed with that product is you have individuals who use it as launching pads and have their foot into Hollywood, even sometimes if it's direct-to-video movies for those who aren't as visible, or individuals like John Cena and The Rock who've been able to have some kind of mainstream success. So in theory, it is a better opportunity for her than it was for Joe Louis back in the day. The sad thing is that when you watch the little promo that she did, it was just so bad that there's just a lot more work and preparation and seasoning she needs to do before they put that camera in her face again.
You know what? The people who are mishandled will continue to be mishandled because the A-list players are not going to waste their time. B-list players want to be A-list players. C and D-list players, that's who you get, and they'll be like, "Could work. Maybe it works. I don't know. Put her in a porno with Tanya Harding. Maybe that works. I don't know. Let's give it a try."
Man.
It's harsh.
Which is perfect timing for Kid Nate's heel turn.
Well, I was going to rag on Snoop Dogg for turning heel on MMA. The guy works for the UFC, and he's going to shit-talk McGregor when Mayweather knocks him out just because of race. I mean, I thought that was low, but I got to go after Michael Bisping instead because fucking Bisping announces these days it's practically a sin to be a white man. He goes on this extended tirade about all the woes and suffering of white men today and telling Tyrone Woodley that he's imagining racism in the UFC because there's obviously no such thing. So I got to give Bisping the big Ian MacKay guilty of being white award for just shameful, trifling idiocy.
Didn't he say the Diaz brothers were white?
Yes, and the Diaz brothers are white because I don't know what his criteria. I mean, all this stuff, race is an artificial construct and everything, and we're all brothers under the skin, et cetera, et cetera. But the Diaz brothers are fucking Hispanic, and we're deporting about 1 million Hispanic kids who all have great jobs and et cetera, and have committed no crimes, have never taken a penny from the government because they fucking can't because they're not citizens. So, if you say that Hispanics don't suffer any prejudice in this country, you're Donald Trump. You're the president. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing where it gets dangerously close to. They've said, "Oh, you're overreacting." Finally, it gets dangerously close to Berlin, 1933, right? Because you've allowed
Nazi reference. Ding, ding, ding.
Well, this is like our 8th Nazi reference in the show, So, I mean,
it's the first one I paid attention to.
So, okay, if you're an illegal alien who's purchased a house in America, what's the plan? What's the play on that one? You're going to show up like with like World War II with the Italians and the Japanese in the Bay Area and say, "Get your shit. You got an hour. Let's go." Is that what you're going to do? You're going to requisition property like they did in 1933 under Nuremberg laws. You're going to take stuff away from people, TVs, cars, because you were here illegally, so you benefited from the crime. The state is going to seize this like RICO statute stuff. They're going to
who are like would have voted for Trump if they hadn't been so lazy are like, "Hey, I'm going to vote free shit. They're taking stuff from other people and giving it to us." Like,
Yeah,
you're starting to make it sound good, Eugene.
you kind of need to think about that, us. You try walking into a Trump Tower and talking about we, see how well that works. Where you going with that ashtray? We the people. Nah, put the ashtray down, son. Get out. So anyway, that was your heel turn. I don't want to stomp on it, but I think that
Don't even. Come on, you're welcome to stomp on my heel turn. You do it every week, Eugene. I'd be hurt if you didn't.
that is true. That much is true.
But I'll be all up in that Lost Battalion as you watch.
That's right, and that's where we are now, Eugene.
No, well, it's a different game this week. Why? Because I don't know if any of you remember. I guess we got Vacation Boy over there. I'm sure he doesn't remember. Mr. Alexei living on a yacht all, Alexei steak and champagne only all. Alexei first class only all. I don't know where he was, but
I was doing all those things. So I think it's quite amazing that you had such an accurate depiction of the lifestyle that I lead. Without me even telling you about it.
It's I have a sense, man. It's a feeling. It's a sixth sense. I see rich people. So I put the entire MMA in the Lost Battalion. So the issue is not who's in the Lost Battalion, but who is the King Arthur that will pull Excalibur from the stone? Whose lonely face will rescue them away by dispersing the mist and letting people rescue themselves out of it? I mean, I keep saying it and nobody keeps answering me. Nobody. The commenters, guys tweeting me on the Twitter thing. Where do we go from here? What do we do? Oh no, I'm really excited about Mighty Mouse and who?
Don't you mean the Mighty?
Right, yeah. Now
Demetrius Mighty Johnson.
Now you hit the Mighty to get away from that fucking cartoon character that you yourself invoked when you called yourself Mighty Mouse. So what?
At least he didn't legally change his name, a la War Machine.
Yeah. Right. There's another guy, War Machine on ice. Mighty. I mean, what? Or the fight after that, or Bisping and GSP. You know what? If you're I don't know, man. You might be beating the drum for a certain type of enthusiasm that you wish was there, but the reality of it is we're asking people to give up Saturday Night Lives, and it's not going to be the casual fan who makes it. It's going to be degenerates like us who make it, and we're going to be sitting there with the same kind of fucking face on, and that face looks like this. That's it. I don't know who's going to rescue the sport. I'm trying not to be downbeat about it, but this whole thing with we have a couple possibilities. Any Diaz McGregor matchup will be a mist clearer. Johnny Boney Joni putting a nail in USADA could be a mist clearer. Which him jumping to heavyweight and fighting Brock Lesnar. Sorry for those of you who think it's a circus act. That would be a mist clear. Anything that generates enthusiasm where we can get the growth deltas to bring in people that will increase the bottom line instead of just catering to degenerates like us. And if you're this far into the show, believe me, you are a degenerate, degenerate fight fan. We don't matter. It's the growth deltas that matter. So I see fewer than 5 possibilities of rescue. If I knew I had fewer than a 5% chance of leaving the house that I would live, I'd never leave the house. So, sorry. No, I mean, I'm being as generous as possible. Here we are. It's September of 2017. What do you see for the rest of 2017? Anybody? Bueller?
I see antibiotic resistant gonorrhea making a huge splash. Unstoppable. Like, come on. Why so down? Hurricane Irma's breaking records. Like, it's the biggest hurricane we've ever seen. Like,
Irma's my mother's name, so that's kind of a positive.
Oh.
Okay, so end of 2017, what? I mean, we have a couple of big things. We have the return of McGregor, so that'll be something sizable.
But that's an iffy
by
one.
the end of the year, though?
An iffy one.
That's not iffy.
Because they got to get Diaz in the cage, too, and that's going to take some – that's actually the hardest part.
No, because Diaz is not a symbolic guy, right? I mean, he could say, well, you know, I need. He said, the reality of it is we're not getting the same gates at MMA that they get at boxing. So realistically, this will make a lot of money. How about we give you 10 mil? Last time you gave me 5 mil. Yeah, we're doubling that, 10 mil. Well, UFC goes, I'm only going to give you 6. Conor says, you know what? Take 4 out of mine. I don't need it. I got it stuck in the cushions of the couch. Go ahead. No, I mean, he won't do that, but conceivably he could. I mean, we're not talking about huge amounts of money to get people to come back, and we also have people who are up against it. You know, not, I mean, up against it. What I'm saying, like these guys are starving, but you know, in 5 years, nobody's going to be offering either of the Diaz's that kind of money to fight. So you might as well get the money now.
What do you think about Scott Coker's little stealthy sabotage by saying, "Oh, you know, Floyd could make that much money in MMA"?
Yeah,
you hear that comment?
That wasn't for Floyd as much as it was for guys who were like, man, where am I going with this boxing thing? Like, who do you mean, Eugene? I mean, like Malignaggi. That was a dog whistle for a guy like Malignaggi. That was a dog whistle for a guy who's like, I mean, what anchor fights you got? You got Canelo, you got GGG. Who else? Anybody?
Joshua, the guy that beat Klitschko.
Yeah, that guy. So there are fewer than 5, or 5. Yeah. You know,
pickings are thin.
You know, the thing is, realistically, when we get to sausages and plates, I think the greatest likelihood is that somehow boxing, that between boxing, MMA, and WWE, that they figure out some kind of circuit to you know, it's what is it? The high tide, all boats rise with a high. What is that expression? The all boats rise. You know what is that? Come on.
Make the pie higher. It's a George W. Bush thing. Make the pie higher. No, it's a rising tide lifts all boats, Eugene.
Thank you. A rising tide lifts all boats. I think that's really realistically the only way, which is why on Bloody Elbow I'm reading about anything that Oscar De La Hoya has to say. You know, which is why you know, Ring.com is talking about Conor McGregor and MMA. I mean, they finally don't fight the feeling. Like the Ohio players said, don't fight the feeling. You gotta just embrace it. And the D League right there is WWE, right? There's your circuit.
Man. Well, on that positive note, thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter at Eugene S. Robinson, Alexi All the Kid.
Man, that was a real downer, wasn't it?
Hey, that's what you're here for, man.
Oh no, we can't.
Come on, you're a jazz art band.
Like, come on, let's just say one positive thing. One positive thing apiece. We gotta like Ian Dury, reasons to be cheerful.
I already said we got a record-setting hurricane. Oh wait, yeah.
Well, one positive thing. Next week, immediately following the show, be sure to check out If the Shoes Fit, a new non-MMA show where we solve salacious situations. I'm going to step into the shoes of the shaken, the chagrined, the kerfuffed. You can check out a preview on our Patreon page, patreon.com/If the Shoes Fit. So that's something positive to look forward to.
There you go. How do you like that profession? It's like rugby. I pass the ball.
I'm trying to plug here,
he grabs the ball. You see how that works, Nate? I pass the ball.
I'm trying to plug. I'm trying to do a plug here.
All right, go ahead.
All right. If you're watching this show, read the description. There's a link to our new YouTube channel for the If the Shoe Fits show. So subscribe to that so it'll be all ready to go next week.
There we go.
I'm trying to help the team, Eugene.
That's right.
That's good.
Ball hogs wouldn't know about.
No. Did I tell you about my history as the ball hog of the universe? I was big enough where nobody would fuck with me, but once I figured out that I was a shitty basketball player, I was like, my hand gets on that ball, I'm throwing it from no matter where I am.
And in which direction? Away from the playground?
Any direction I felt like at that point, yeah. A friend of mine came, he was high on LSD and came up to these guys. This is our happy story, because it's apropos of the Burning Man death. He comes on these hippies and they're playing a hacky sack, and he kind of looks and he says, hey, you want to play? Like, yo, you know, and they got the little sticks and the dose and the incense, and he goes, yeah, sure. And he comes and he stands, and somebody kicks it to him, and then he kicks it like 60 yards down the field. and he looks at them and goes, "I win."
Picking on hippies. Proud of yourself? You proud of yourself?
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was a friend of mine.
A friend.
And no, it was really a friend. And I was sitting there watching this and was pretty. I applauded his.
Speaking of applause, please give us a thumbs up, Eugene.
Sorry.
And leave
And
comments.
actually, in these Oxbow shows, we had knuckleheads in attendance at, like, I think each of the shows. So let it never be said. Let it never be said that I don't come through on my deal to put you on the list. But you got to get me in the early part of the day. Ms. Tech was texting me like 15 minutes before showtime. It's like, I can't do it now. You know, early in the day, you're on. Membership has its privileges.
Late in the day, you find out Eugene is a bullshit ripoff artist. That's what she's saying.
Hey, man, once I start getting dressed, you know, and putting on my makeup.
Your tidy whities.
Yeah.
Leave comments on YouTube. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube, MMA Nation, iTunes. Visit Bloody Elbow. Buy Oxbow's The Thin Black Duke, where refined music is sold. We'll be back next week with another installment of If I Did It. We don't know what we're going to be talking about yet because the PR mistakes have yet to be made.